Thank you, everybody, for that break. Welcome back. Moving on consent agenda, item number 3, agreement between CUSD and B Youngblood choreographer to provide 4 routines to the Calexico High Academy for the Performing Arts students, May 14th through 17th. I pulled that one because what I couldn't find in the backup was the scope of services on this agreement.
Mrs. Montaño, do you have the scope of services for that agreement?
I didn't hear
No,
you.
I'm sorry. I'm just commenting that it might have been left out there because it might have been written into the invoice itself, and we took the invoice off, so that was my error.
We don't have it. That's
Right.
It's not here. Okay, so
So it's the item number C, district agrees?
we are
that-
item number 3. That what we have before is for the recommendation for us to agree on to approve the agreement between the district and B Youngblood choreographer to provide 4 routines. And so we have a contract in front of us. We don't have a scope of services. They exist, correct? We just don't have it. Here's backup.
I'm going to be honest, I'm presuming that it exists.
Okay. So at this point, my motion would be to table this item until that information could be provided to us. That's the motion on the table.
I will second that.
There's a second by Mr. Calderon. Any further discussion, board? Seeing none, can we get a vote? All those in favor of the motion on the table signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carries
Aye.
unanimously. Those voting in favor are trustee Ortega, Aguilar, Duarte, Calderon, and myself. Item number 5, the contract between CUSD and Jenkins for child nutrition services. I pulled it again because while the substance remained the same on the contracts, some technical additions have been made by our legal counsel. Again, hard copies are available here in the front, at the table over here to my right. In addition to that, I also don't see here a description of what services or duties this consultant will provide.
Madam President, I'm kind of confused because we have an agreement for a consulting company for food service, but yet we have a director of food service in the in the classified report. So I'm kind of
Correct.
confused. Are we doing both? Did we give direction?
Correct. So if we can get also that clarified, we do have before us in a report for food director. And a little bit of background on this, though, board, is that I think this is the one we had approved to go out for, was it an RFP? RFQ for this particular service. I believe we approved that in January. And if you all kind of work with me here on the history, then we did lose our food service director subsequent to our vote in January. So yes, both things are on the table. So in January, we approved to go out for an RFQ for this. So this is the, the vendor that was selected. And then in the interim, we lost the food service director.
Do we also have the scope
Okay,
of services included in this contract?
Is it here? In our backup?
My question is, did we give direction to do both, or we just crossed and nobody asked, hold on, what is the board's direction?
In January, we gave direction to go out for RFQ
Correct.
for this service, yeah.
Who gave direction to hire a director of food service?
Well,
Once the director of food service resigned, we decided that we flew the position for director of food service because it's something that was needed as part of our audit, from the food service audit that we underwent. The recommendation is that we hire a food service director that is knowledgeable in the area of food service, obviously, and that is experienced in the area of food service. And in terms of a food management or consultant type company, the recommendation also from the state is that if you did that, that would be all right. However, there was a need to have a food service director.
And we put somebody in the interim for that. Either I skipped the meeting or I was not paying attention when we gave direction to end up with both. It doesn't make sense to me to have a director and have a consulting company at the same time.
I would just say, I mean, I understand where your concern is. I think in January, when we agreed to go for the RFQ, we had a food service director. So if we had not lost Mr. Caballero, we would essentially have had both.
Yeah, but isn't it up to somebody to say, now that he's gone, what are we going to do? What is our direction? I mean, you have two of
I
the
hear you.
same.
I think my understanding was when we were having those discussions was, I understood it.
And we put,
differently.
we put an interim director at
Correct.
that time. So my thought process was that the interim was going to stay until the end of the year.
And I don't know if that's,
I
don't know, that discussion isn't.
I would like to see minutes of where we approved to hire or to fly the position of a director of food service.
I believe
I believe we've had this discussion on both, but we did give direction and a vote on getting an RFQ for consulting company. But I don't recall making a vote on flying the position just because we have it open, because we had made the understanding that we were to hire one of the staff members as interim. And I understand about the audit, but there's other things on the audit too that we haven't gotten done yet.
If my memory serves me correctly, one of the reasons why we went with the idea of hiring a consulting firm was because of the audit. I remember that. I remember having the conversation, and I remember having the conversation. I remember having that conversation that we should do both simply because of the audit. So I remember talking about that.
I
And
believe that
remember-
was a closed session item.
And there is no motion in closed session. So how can we have a motion?
On this item right here, again, I didn't see a description of the services or duties that this consultant will provide. What we do have in front of us looks like a bio, maybe a resume, but not what specifically is going to be done. Was that in the RFQ?
Actually, Madam President, because of the audit and because of the nature of the types of services that we needed, what we put out in the quote, or what we requested from the vendors, was, since we didn't know specifically everything that we would need for them to do for us outside of consulting and giving us help with all of those audit findings, we requested that they provide us with a list of the services they provided, along with a rate for those services. And that's how the quote was, and that's how we went out. We did the RFQ that way.
So is this a request for written quote
Yes.
or a request for proposal? This is a proposal.
It's a request for a quote for the services that they would provide the district, or that they can provide the district.
Did we, when we sent out to bid, because we don't see what the bid entails.
Right.
Did the bid say what our needs were?
It did not say what our needs were. The quote was what services these vendors or these consultants provided, their companies provided, and a cost for that, for all the services they provided.
So in the
And-
agreement
and-
here, Ms. Randall, it says consultant agrees to perform, and then there's space to fill in what that work is going to be.
That is correct. And since we were, or since there is a agenda item for a food service consultant, or excuse me, a food service director, that would kind of, coordinate along with that.
I see.
But if we go back to this,
Correct.
we're going back to this, it says monthly to be determined. And then it says due to the undisclosed scope of work, a monthly rate can be determined. So if we're gonna do, then a standard number of days per month must be agreed upon before a monthly rate can be set. So that leaves a lot to be discussed. So how can we agree at this point? How can we agree or approve something if even the contract or the scope of work hasn't been determined yet?
Well, it does give an hourly, or excuse me, an hourly rate with a minimum of 6 hours, so.
Yeah, but it says here, there's due to the undisclosed scope of work, number one, and then number two, a monthly rate hasn't been determined.
Well, initially,
So are we gonna go just by hours?
This was
So-
due yesterday, right? The
Yes.
close of the
Yes.
quote was due.
yes.
So how is this board, I'm just getting this right now for the first time. How are we supposed to make a vote on something that just landed on our hands, and it's not, this is what they do. It's not saying they're gonna meet our needs, because they don't know what our needs are. And I think our food service needed to be assessed by the audit and really look into it. So the thing that made the most sense was to keep the interim until we actually sit down with food service and see what our needs are. Because we know that our food service department has not been the best in this, more than 10 years probably. But this is the opportune time to revamp the food service department and get input. This is something that needs input from students and stakeholders of CUSD and the community, because
agree.
we've had the community come up to the podium saying, don't feed my kids, microwavable food. So we haven't even assessed the department, and now we're gonna end up with a director and a company. It just doesn't make sense. It's not good practice, because we don't even know what we need. We know what we want, but we have not assessed the department yet.
And just from my perspective, Mrs. Duarte,
that was kind of what what I would have used it, or this person for, was to help assess the department and help assess the needs of our food service department. At least that was my understanding as to why we were going out for the RFQ, so.
And I agree, and my recollection was that we would use this vendor to help with the assessment. In the interim, and just for history, then we lost our food service director. So I think that may be why it seems like they've crossed, the two issues have crossed over one another.
Madam
I
President?
have a question.
Yes.
Let me inquire, because now I'm looking at this really for the first time, and another attorney was handling this as of yesterday. What is the fee between the parties based on this contract?
The fee is $60 an hour for a minimum of 6 hours.
For a minimum of 6 hours?
Correct.
Oh, I see, okay. I would let the public know that those terms are on the handout that the board just received. If anyone in the public wants to see it, it's available up here. Thank you.
Point of clarification, it says on-site hourly rate, minimum of 6 hours, so that, so if they're on-site, they would be on-site the 6 hours on a daily basis.
Correct. Or for however many days that, if we decide it would be 2 days a week, 3 days a week, or whatever, we've directed this consultant to do.
I've also got another question. According to the audit, does the audit require that we have both?
I don't think it requires that we have both.
The audit does not require that we have both. The audit did require that we have a full-time food service director that is experienced as soon as possible to replace our former food service director.
What, I'm sorry, the audit was completed, wasn't it before we didn't have a food service director, wasn't it?
Yeah, at the time that the food service audit took place, we had our interim food service director in place. And so what they recommended is that we have a food service director in place as soon, a qualified food service director in place as soon as possible. That was a recommendation that was given to me.
Okay, I'm just, the timeline of when the food audit occurred, when did that start?
I believe
When would food services?
I want
food
to
services
say
audit?
that it was towards the end of February when we had the food service audit.
Okay, and then Mr. Caballero,
He left prior to the food service audit.
he left right before.
Yeah, he left
You're
right before the
Okay,
food service
I
audit.
just couldn't remember, you're right.
Yes, and so we had the food service audit late February, correct? February 24th.
Right.
And one of the key points that they kept repeating was that we hire someone
Correct,
in that position.
okay. Did somebody
Madam-
else have something? Yes.
I was just going to express, Madam President, that it'd be my recommendation that we table the consultant and move forward with our food service director and have him make an assessment. That's what, as an incoming person, I would do.
Would you state that in the form of a motion?
Motion to move, to table the consultant agreement and move forward with, well, I can't because that's in the employment report. I just motion to table the consulting report, consulting agreement.
And let me, before we move on to a second, because I've just received a request for public comment, and let me just defer to Mr. Weiler right now because we have a motion on the table, and we simultaneously received a motion for public comment on this topic.
I'll withdraw the motion to allow the public comment to move forward.
Thank you, Ms. Aguilar. And we have Mr. Mike Nuzzi.
Hello, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to address you real briefly. We were one of the vendors that actually responded to the RFQ, and we thought that it was seeking a management company to assist the director that would be hired or might possibly be hired at the time, which is exactly what we do. We weren't the ones selected by the committee who had made that recommendation, but we're a company that assists in helping you get through audits, help you with recipes, a vast library of recipes, complete and total nutritional experience for the students, improve food quality, scratch cooking, training of the staff, a whole slew of things. So the company that was, or the individual that was recommended as a consultant, it's kind of not an apples to apples comparison because we put a quote in that was a whole variety of things because it was left up to us to make that decision of what kind of services. So when you're trying to make an apples to apples comparison between the consultant that was recommended and a company like ourselves, we're really just kind of shooting in the dark here. We don't know what we're going for because we could certainly bring someone at a certain hourly rate, or we could do a whole array of things that's going to benefit the food service program beyond just what a $60 an hour consultant might do. So with that, I wanted to make that clear. We want to be part of the process. We actually partner with Central Union High School District down the road, and we'd be more than interested to have you come and tour and see some of the things we do there and how we partner with the district in that respect.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch your firm's name,
My name is Mike. My last name is Nuzzi.
your agency.
Southwest Food Service Excellence.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you for the time.
Madam President,
Yes.
as a point of information here, I am told by the attorney that was handling this matter in our office that an option could be possibly to not even go out for bids and hire someone as a consultant as a personal services type of arrangement without the bidding process. So if this is tabled, that might be an option to look into if you want to go that direction.
Okay, thank you for that. Ms. Aguilar, would you still like to entertain a motion?
Yes, I would.
Would you state that motion, please?
Motion to table the consulting recommendation listed on the agenda.
There's a
Second.
motion by Ms. Aguilar to table item number 5 under consent agenda.
I'll second that.
Second by Ms. Duarte. No further discussion. Can we get a vote on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Those voting in favor are Trustee Ortega, Trustee Aguilar, Trustee Duarte, Trustee Calderon, and myself. Item number 6, Ms. Duarte.
I'd like to know if I guess it's the mariachi or the high school mariachi band has the funds for this trip.
Thank you. And in addition to that, I would also, I have the same question. I would also like to have, from here and moving onward, as part of backup information that would allow us as a board to make better decisions, I'd like to see what the fundraisers were that the students were a part of, how much money was raised, or I'd like to have a whole spreadsheet on where this money lies right now, if it's all there, and a breakdown of how we came to this, for example, on this item, this $9,620 for lodging, meals, and registration, and a breakdown of how we concluded the $1,500 for the vans. And I don't know if we have somebody here that could give us that information. But also, moving forward, I'd like to see that as part of our backup information.
One other thing, Madam President, is that this is an out-of-state function, and I don't know when they knew about this trip, this conference, but I would certainly like for this conference to have come up, a month or two in advance, instead of us being pressured. And I understand that, they work really hard and everything, but there's a little bit more of information that we need to know in order for them to.
Correct. And
To
in
go to
addition to that, there are is 4 chaperones and 1 campus security listed on here. We don't have the names of the chaperones, so that we would need to at least verify that they are part of the approved chaperones. And this campus security that's on here, when this campus, I assume it's campus security that we currently employ. So when this person is out for these days, who is replacing that, and where are those funds coming from?
Okay, regarding the monies, I can't tell you specifically if they have the funding, the total funding for these trips. I know it's an ongoing process where they're fundraising. I can give you paperwork of what they have, how they've made that money. I know that the mariachis group, they do serenade during certain occasions, for example, the Valentine's and Mother's Days and so on, where they make part of their money. But I can get back to you with specifics on how much they have. There's times that they put things on agendas and the money's not there 100%, and if they don't reach it, then we're just not going to make the trip.
Do you have a particular trip that you can point to where that happened? Because I don't remember us approving a trip without knowing if we had the money available, and then the trip not happening because the money wasn't there. And so, which is why I also asked for us in the future to have that information already for us available, because that is what we look for when we see that students are fundraising. I think those of us that are parents and whose children fundraise wonder, where that money is, if they've reached the amount that they're going to need to be able to go. I have to assume that it's being tracked somewhere, and that should be part of the backup information.
It's being tracked through Mrs. Ramsey, our accountant at the campus, our financial person. I will send Mrs. Ambriz a report on both what the mariachis raised, what the bands raised, and so you guys can see, Ms. Ambriz will see, what's the total for these trips and what is it that we have as of tomorrow.
Okay, and I would also like to just propose that they don't come before us for approval if we don't know that the money is all there. This trip is taking place April 30th. That is right around the corner, and I mean, I don't know if they're $8,000 away from reaching, and that's a lot of chocolate to sell from now until then. And again, the list of the chaperones, and then how the campus security would be mitigated, or we'd be short a campus security here, and who would replace, and then who would fund that person that would replace the campus security that is leaving. Is there a motion on this item?
No, I have a question.
Okay, more discussion. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ms. Aguilar.
Do we have a policy or process in terms for accounting of how we do, or the activities, fundraising activities are governed, and how it impacts students who don't meet the fundraising goals?
They're under the ASB umbrella as a club, the mariachi, as well as the band, in reference to, the different kinds of fundraisers. They need to be approved by ASB, making sure that we're not competing against other clubs with the same product during that same period of time, and so on.
Madam President,
Yes,
my concern is that there is another field trip that I had pulled for discussion,
Correct.
item number 8, and it's the same mariachi. And it's 28 students, and for the expense, there's no total amount of expense here. It just says it'll be paid by fundraisers. And the van is 1408. Unless there's an abundance of money in that fund, I don't see how we can make a motion tonight and approve this, because the item we're on, it's over $10,000 plus the additional trip to Magic Mountain. So I don't feel comfortable making a motion without knowing those things, because once we approve, we have given a go-ahead ticket at any expense.
Right, so what we can do is motion to table until we get
We
that
won't have another
information.
board meeting until May 1st. And that is what I'm saying, that these trips should come up at least 2 months in advance.
Actually,
Well, we-
if you recall, I brought it up before, saying we know already that, the debate team is going to participate. We should be getting these things at the beginning of the year. But
Well, we're still on item 6, so, but I understand what you're saying.
And not only that, but I don't know if it's been the band or the mariachi that were taking trips to San Diego, to Los Angeles to compete and stuff, and I had brought it up that transportation has not been paid, and it concerns me that I heard today that a total of probably 100 hours of overtime have been paid to bus drivers in order to fulfill these trips that we have assigned. And those 100 hours of overtime have not been budgeted into this year's budget. So we need to be more cognizant of these trips when we approve them, and we have to have the information in front of us.
Mr. Pesquera, would you consider this activity a student activity or a district activity?
Which one are you talking about? The one to Tucson?
Number
the
6,
one
we're
for
on item
Tucson.
number 6.
Yes. Last year, they participated for the first time. It is a student activity for the mariachi group. It's tons of mariachis. It's like a mariachi festival. There's workshops that our students go through. They learn new skills and so on, and they participate themselves. So it's a mariachi
Yeah,
festival.
The reason I'm asking is because it says, and this what I'm going to share right now is something that was brought up to us before, and in terms of this is what I'm reading from the National Center for Education Statistics on financial accounting for local and state school systems. Student activity funds support activities that are based in student organizations. Students not only participate in the activities of the organization, but are also involved in the managing and directing the organization's activities. An important distinction is that dispersing monies from the student activity fund may be subject to approval by the student organization and its sponsor rather than the Board of Education. So it would be on, according to this, it would be on the student.
Yes,
orgs.
and like I said, when they have a club, when they form a club through ASB, they have their own board. So when they're making recommendations, they vote on it, they have their minutes, and all that comes into play when they're requesting a check or a requisition.
And I believe that with that said, we got a letter saying that the boosters account is in the red.
I don't know if it was the boosters account, I think
can't
it was
remember what
the,
letter it
the
was.
We
band.
have nothing to do with the boosters.
Right, I
account.
think that was the band. One of the things
Okay.
I've also heard, and I don't know if it was from Ms. Rodriguez or Mr. Pesquera, about the clubs, that clubs are not allowed to function in the red. Am I correct?
That is correct.
So when something like this hits our us as an agenda item for us to act on, is it then safe to say that the ASB club has looked at it, ensured through their membership, that this particular club has raised these funds, and that's why it's before us?
It's not ASB that looks at their accounts and says, you know what, you have the monies. It really goes through Mrs. Ramsey. You know, whatever fundraising is taking place, students are going straight to her and depositing the money. Obviously, they're getting a receipt, and there's an ongoing account, which reports can be. ASB is the association that, you know, will bring him in as a club. They'll give him that jurisdiction if they're following, obviously, the steps, the rules that are needed.
And so if I think back to an audit that we looked at recently where there were some discrepancies and issues with the ASB funds and how those are handled, I have to question this and kind of red flag it on myself and wonder then if these steps are being taken. I mean, can Ms. Ramsey ascertain that those funds have been raised by these particular students, that it won't encroach on another club? And
Yes.
that's really the information that I would need in order to confidently approve something like this.
We will send you, I will send Mrs. Ambriz the accounts that we have for Mariachi,
Okay.
the accounts that we have for band, in reference to, you know, the ledger of what they've deposited, what fundraisers and so on, and where we're at with the balance.
Okay. Is there a motion on this item, board, whether to approve it or not?
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Mr. Brisqueta, I see lodging, meals, and registration. I'm assuming that, you know, they've probably already extended monies for reservations and so forth. That's probably not refundable, I would assume, right?
I would need to check into that, Mr. Ortega.
Yeah.
Most probable, yes.
Okay.
But I'll check and
Yeah.
give Ms. Ambriz that.
So in the event that they don't go, they'll lose that money then? If it's non-refundable, of course.
I'm hoping that if they don't have that money yet, because I know they started a new fundraiser today, and I'm talking about the band here. If they don't have that money yet, it's not that they're going to lose on some deposit, but don't mark my words.
Well,
I'll check on that
Mr.
tomorrow.
Ortega, it would be my understanding that in order to make those types of arrangements, registration fees and all that, that would go through district office, so there'd be some record of somebody having made those arrangements. I don't think Ms. Ramsey makes those types of arrangements. My understanding would be that they come from district office. Okay. Anything else on this
I'll check
item?
into it.
Is there a motion?
Before somebody makes the motion, or before I make the motion, Mr. Pesquera, bottom line, we need to be careful with this. And I think the other board members, I think we have mentioned it before, that we don't want to, I'm going to say it, we don't want to look like the bad guys. However, we have a responsibility over not only the students, but also the fiscal impact that these expenditures may have. I am not opposed to sending students to conferences because this is why we're here. However, we as adults, we need to be more responsible, you know, when setting something like that.
So, call for the question.
Yes, I'll make the motion to approve.
I second.
Are you motioning to approve pending some information, or you're just motioning to approve as it is?
No, I'm motion to approve. I'm motion to approve pending, like we have said before, pending the information that Mr. Pesquera will get and send to Ms. Ambriz by tomorrow.
There's a motion on the table by Mr. Calderon to approve item number 6, pending receiving information on how this is going to be paid. Is there a second?
I second it.
There's a second by Mr. Ortega. All those in favor of the motion on the table signify by saying aye.
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 No.
No. No. Motion dies for lack of excuse me, those voting in favor of the motion are trustee Calderon and trustee Ortega. Those voting against it are myself, trustee Duarte, and trustee Aguilar.
Madam
Madam-
President?
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to ask, I know that at one point we gave direction last year to develop policy in terms of fundraising because in terms of how the audit last year also included discrepancies of bookkeeping, well, not discrepancies, but not accurate bookkeeping practices. And I think, didn't we give direction for policy to be developed and implemented, and so that all ASs and clubs would follow that?
I do recall the conversation, Ms. Aguilar, and I also recall, in addition to that, another conversation when I think Ms. Rodriguez went over the audit findings with us, and she also did clarify, I believe it was you, Ms. Rodriguez, about the clubs and how they function and the process in which the monies should be very transparent. And it was I don't know, thought it was an audit finding, correct? And you're right, Ms. Aguilar, we have brought it up.
So do we have policy in place? We do. So have students, do I direct myself to?
There is policy, Ms. Aguilar. The audit found that it wasn't being followed.
Okay, so my next question is, what are we doing to making sure it's being followed?
And I believe, I don't know if we got the audit report or the corrective action, Ms. Rodriguez, if you would, think the corrective action response talked about what the district was going to do, correct?
Yes, the corrective action or the district's response to that was that we would do quarterly reviews with the bookkeepers in charge of these ASB accounts, and that we would train them with the FICMAT manuals and trainings that the county offers. But yes, it lies on the enforcement of the policy, more so.
How are we enforcing?
Through board meetings and the approvals.
Has that happened? Physically, has that happened with these employees that are in charge of those accounts since last year?
I know at the business department, as far as the elementary level, we do filter all of those fund requests. And so if there are no funds, those requests do not get processed.
Ms. Rodriguez, that's not answering the question. The question is, has these individuals been trained?
Yes, they have. Mrs. Ramsey has been trained, and also at the Aurora and the secondary levels, Enrique Camarena and Willie.
And who did these trainings for them?
It would be the county through FICMAT.
FICMAT came to the district?
It
Or they
comes to,
went-
it goes to the county, and the county schedules the training. It's on a yearly basis. Administrators and bookkeepers go to those.
Thank you,
The audit findings also included errors and lack of bookkeeping or accurate bookkeeping by the students. Were the students trained?
No, it's not the students' accounting. It was more on the deposit slips, the deposit slip, the cash. It was
Correct,
something-
but there was, sometimes there wasn't paperwork put together, because on a daily basis, say for example, they've got an AS store, they have to keep of what they sold, what they're depositing, correct?
That is correct. There was not an itemized list of the deposit. And again, this was at the secondary level because they are in charge of their accounts. It doesn't, the writing of checks doesn't go through the business department office. And that at the response of the district, we said that we would train them, and if this continued, that we would implement a system where the writing of checks would go through the business department and take it away from their hands.
Anything else, board? Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez. For an item number 8, Ms. Duarte, you pulled field trip Calexico High School Mariachi end-of-year field trip to Magic Mountain on April 17th, 2014.
And that is the same discussion. Park tickets and meals expenses, $839 for 28 students, plus the 1408. Same issue, is the funding there?
Correct, as well as the chaperones are not listed and who they are. Well, this isn't an overnight trip, but we do have 3 chaperones on here, and I think just for safety, we should know who those chaperones are. Is there a motion on this trip? Would you like someone to come up and give you more information on this item? I think it was submitted by Mr. Pesqueira. Do the band students, or in this case, I guess it's the mariachi specifically, when students take end-of-year trips, is it celebratory or is it more of an educational, is there an educational aspect to it, or are all of these end-of-year trips for the bands celebratory in nature? And so when the students are fundraising, do the parents know from the get-go that it's celebratory in nature and not so much educational? Although I'm sure it's got educational components to it. They get to interact. They get to leave the county, and they're fun. I've chaperoned them. They're a lot of fun. Just wondering, the way it's worded here, I don't know that I've ever seen it worded that way.
Any trip that's taken during the regular school day, and I think this is on a Thursday, right? It's right before our break.
Correct.
Is not just a celebratory. There's got to be the educational part. If it's on a Saturday, there's not an instructional day, then it could be more of a celebratory and a type of a trip.
Okay, so then with this one, that, falling during a school day and students missing, is there, as backup information, how this trip is educational? I know we received that from, I think, one meeting back. Remember, Ms. Duarte, the trip to Knott's Berry Farm that talked about the social skills that the students would learn at Knott's Berry Farm, and it's true. I'm sure it takes a lot of social skills not to get frustrated with the long lines, et cetera.
There's a packet that any advisor or teacher taking students, that it's a field trip packet that includes, what's going to be part of the instructional day. What is it that they're learning? And
Yeah,
I wasn't
it'd be
sure
great
that
to
if you
have it
guys were
here.
getting that or not, but we
No.
have it in the main office. I'll
Okay.
make sure I'll take that packet to Ms. Somebody's tomorrow.
Yeah,
on
that'd
both
be
of those
great.
trips.
And from here onward, if that could be included, the language here is great. I mean,
Has the name of the chaperones and so on, yes, yeah.
so all of that is
Yes.
available. It
Yes.
does exist. It's
Yes.
just not on here. Okay, I see. Okay, so you can ascertain that information is there.
Yes.
There is an educational element
I'll
to
bring
this
Ms.
trip.
Somebody's a copy tomorrow.
Okay, you can't ascertain though that this money exists in their account.
No, that I can't.
Okay. And this trip is on May 17th. We do have a meeting before that, board, just in your, don't we?
That's April 7th.
Over here it says May 17th.
So it is May 17th, and it's not April.
It's in May. It's May 17th. And if you look at your summary of key issues, it's on May 17th. And just for your consideration, we do have a meeting on May 1st.
I'll bring that information.
Is there any additional?
It's a Saturday.
I do
so
have
we
additional
don't need
question.
educational.
Mr. Pesqueira, in terms of when they're fundraising, is it everybody fundraises and if enough is fundraised, everybody goes, or only the ones who fundraise
No.
are the ones going to go?
No. It's like Mr. Navarrete tells the students, okay, this is what it's going to cost us, from transportation to whatever they need. If they don't reach that, then they're not going to go to the trip. But either everybody goes or they just don't go.
Okay, so, all right.
And we are not asking students, you know what, we're $2,000 short if everybody pitches in $20. No.
Right, they can't do that, it's illegal.
Correct.
But, okay, so I'll grant you that, but in terms of what happens with the money that is already fundraised?
Well, it stays
Towards that.
It stays
With
part of
that.
the club, and then they plan on,
It
okay.
stays with that particular group?
Yes, but if there's time during the year, believe me, they're going to plan and see, okay, we have so much money, what can we do with it before the year is out?
Okay.
Understanding that they can leave 10% in the budget for the following year,
Okay.
a
thank you.
maximum of 10%.
Is there any further discussion or a motion? Ms. Duarte, I think you pulled it.
Yeah, I would like to table this item till we get the budget from this account, because this whole goes hand in hand with the other trips, so we would know how much money they do have in their budget. And we do have the meeting on May 1st, and if they do have the money, then we can bring it back on May 1st for approval.
Okay, there's a motion.
To table.
To table by Ms. Duarte, pending us receiving information on the budget. Is there enough money to cover this trip and information on fundraisers, et cetera? Is there a second? I'll second. There's a second by myself. There's a motion by Ms. Duarte and a second on the table. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Those voting in favor are trustee Ortega, Aguilar, Duarte, Calderon, and myself. Item number 9, the field trip, the Calexico Mighty Bulldog Band end of the year field trip to Magic Mountain on May 24th.
Same discussion, Madam President. Since it's on May 24th, and this is for about $17,000, I would definitely table this item to make sure that the funds are there.
Thank you. And in addition to that, we don't have a list of who the chaperones are. As part of backup from here on out, a complete breakdown of the fundraisers that are held, how much money is in this band account. In addition to this, I maybe would like to know what the band boosters' role is in these field trips for our band, and I'm hoping that the district is working in conjunction with our band boosters. I know they work really hard with our students. They put in a lot of their own time.
I've got an
helping our band.
overarching
Yes, ma'am.
question, Madam President.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there a reason why they're called field trips? They're actual field trips? Or define what is a field trip? Is it for fun or is it for educational purposes?
Is that a question for me or for Mr. Busquets?
Or for whoever can answer it?
Just said it, that when it's during the week, it's supposed to be, that it could be, during the week, it could be called an instructional field trip, but when it's on the weekend, it could be called a recreational field trip. And this one, which is on the 24th, it's on a Saturday. So, and the other.
Mr. Pesqueira?
May, yeah.
We have taken field trips on Saturdays, and I can attest, we have part of our band booster team back here. They have been a combination of a fun, but also educational, because if you consider the Disney trip, that was on a Saturday last year, is that correct? Friday and Saturday. And Saturday is when they marched in the parade at Disney Park, which is an educational trip. The kids are out there showcasing their skills and so on.
But not having fun.
Oh, they're having fun. There's no ifs or buts. That's a combination. But most Saturday trips that you see clubs taking on a Saturday and so on are more of a celebratory for their hard work that they've done throughout the year. But when we're talking about students missing school on a Monday through Friday, the biggest majority is it's an instructional type of educational trip.
And just called your attention to this is that Education Code 670 says that students shall not be prevented from attending a field trip or a school camp program because of their lack of money. School boards shall coordinate community service groups to ensure field trip participation. No group shall take a field trip if any student is excluded because of a lack of funds.
Is that, Ms. Aguilar, is there some implication that some students are not being allowed to go to this trip because they don't have funds in their
No,
account?
that was why I asked my question in terms of, you know, was it, you know, everybody has to do a certain amount, and if you don't make that amount, you can't go. And he said no.
If the band in itself or the mariachi or whichever club, if they don't make the funds to be able to go to a trip, then they just don't go. It's not because, you know, you didn't raise $40 and another student raised $80. You know, they're raising money for the let's say in this case it's the band club or the mariachi, and then they're setting goals. They're setting goals of where is it that we're going to go this year. If we don't have the money, well, we just don't go.
When they receive the money, it goes into then one account? Then can you explain, and correct me if I'm wrong, don't students have individual accounts?
No, they don't.
So students don't leave here in debt or saying, look, you didn't.
Well, it used to kind of be like, it was kind of like that in the past, where students were having like an individual account. Well, obviously that was not right. That does not exist. We don't have individual account for students anymore.
Since when?
I'm going to say for sure this year.
Okay.
For sure this year. Last year was kind of still working like that, but it was changed. And now we raise money for the club, we raise money for the band. We either have enough to go to the trip or we don't go.
Okay.
So, Mr. Pesqueira, if there's a club other than the band and the mariachi, and they say, we're going to go on a field trip, and the ASB fund has money, and they never fundraise, they're able to go to another club?
You're saying if the ASB wants to sponsor that trip to assist another club, that's their fundraising money.
Without fundraising?
Well, you're saying ASB's fundraise to have that money.
Because you say that you only have one bank account, right? One account.
Well, everything's under the umbrella of ASB.
Okay.
And then there's a sub-accounts that say for band and mariachi and...
Oh, there's sub-accounts?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Right.
They have
All
their
right.
book. They have their different books.
I missed that part.
Correct. There's a sub-account, like, for example, like I say, they're under the jurisdiction of ASB, but then every club that's out there fundraising, they have their monies goes to, if it's the art club or whatever clubs we have, yeah.
The board club. Is there anything else on this item? Otherwise, is there a motion on this item? Who made a motion? Number 9? I thought that was number 8. I don't have. Ms. Duarte, you made a motion on this? I seconded?
To table.
I need more coffee. Okay, there's a motion by Ms. Duarte to table this item until we get a proof of funds. There's a second by me. Seeing no further discussion, all those voting in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, I have a question. When will we bring these back? May 1st? Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Those voting in favor are Trustee Ortega, Trustee Aguilar, Trustee Duarte, Trustee Calderon, and myself.
And maybe for the, oh, well, it failed, right? The one for Tucson? Because I was going to say, if Ms. Ambriz has the numbers, maybe she can email the board with board note discussion.
Item number 11, Professional Development NCLB CalPADS Workshop on May 15th at San Diego County Office of Education. I pulled this one. And just as a comment, what I'd like to see as backup from here on out is a rationale statement on each individual that workshops that shows how their role aligns to any particular workshop and how their involvement was either part of their employee goals or part of the district's professional development plan for that particular employee. I know it's not on here for this one. My questions would be on each individual that's being proposed to attend this, what their role is and how their role fits into this particular workshop. So from here forward, that's my recommendation as backup. Thank you. Any further discussion, board, on this particular item? I'd motion to approve item number 11. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Duarte. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Those voting in favor are Trustee Ortega, Trustee Aguilar, Trustee Duarte, Trustee Calderon, and myself. Item number 12, Professional Development Teacher Training Program, June 14th through 21st in Jackson, Mississippi.
I pulled this item because as reading the backup documentation, I saw that it's teacher training program for a ballet class. And I questioned myself, do we have ballet? Do we have an actual class of ballet?
Presently, my understanding, and maybe Mr. Pesqueira could help me, that we do not. However, it's part of the plan as far as the SSP grant, otherwise known as the dance grant, that it will become part of the curriculum for this particular grant.
When will that be?
It's supposed to start in the fall.
The fall?
The program, no, Ms. Right, but I'm addressing Ms. Montaño. What I'd like to see as backup information when these things come to us from here on out is a copy of the grant itself that specifies that this amount is payable through that grant, and I'd like to see attached as backup the curriculum for this class in particular that justifies this trip. In other words, does the current curriculum of this dance program state that ballet will be offered so that we can justify this trip?
At present, the copy of the grant would suffice for the information that you're requesting. The actual curriculum, from my understanding, still needs to be written, so I couldn't offer you a syllabi, but the grant itself does explain that ballet would be part of the courses offered.
Okay, the grant as it was written states that ballet would be
Yes.
offered.
So if I
Okay.
offer you a
But
copy
we
of-
don't have a curriculum that would demonstrate that ballet will be offered. That's not in place yet, correct?
No, ma'am.
Okay. I'd just like to see that moving forward so that we know that it is something that's going to be put on a curriculum. It is something that we're going to offer
Okay.
students as backup information.
No problem.
How soon can we do a syllabi for that?
I can talk to Mrs. Buchanan and see how quickly she can put it together for you.
Oh, the question is, have we ever have had that class in our district? Because if we have offered that class in our district, it's just a matter of.
No, this is part of this new.
I'm talking
this
about
new
if we
dance
have in the past ever 20 years ago offered a ballet class. That's what I'm talking about.
That's your that's your question. If we've
Yes.
ever offered a ballet
Ever,
class?
ever.
To me, sir?
Well, no, actually, well, nobody knows. We haven't been here in 20 years, so I mean us. No, so maybe research that.
Well, what do you want to know?
If we have offered ballet in the past, then we don't need to recreate the class. Maybe we just need to tweak it.
I don't believe we have, but I would defer to Mr. Pesqueira if he knew, or
Okay.
anybody else. But it should be part of something that is created as part of the grant.
All we've had in Calexico Unified School District, at the high school level, has been, modern dance, jazz, some type of rudimentary tap, but no ballet.
Is there any
Well-
additional discussion? Ms. Duarte?
Yes, since I pulled this item, this trip is not till June, and we won't have the class till next fall. I would like to table this item until we do have a syllabi, and maybe there may be other trainings other than Mississippi. I don't know. But until we have an actual class, I would feel more comfortable in sending somebody to get trained on this workshop.
There's a motion by Ms. Duarte to motion.
Second for discussion.
Okay.
For
There's
additional
a
discussion.
motion to table this item pending the curriculum and discussion at this time by Ms. Aguilar.
Although I've seconded your motion, Ms. Duarte, I'm going to speak to the point that I think it would be not a good idea to postpone it. I think we should stipulate that that information be brought to us as soon as possible. But the thing is, it's not so much the location of the training is the training source. This is something that's integrated into the CAVAPA program, the grant, correct?
Yes, it is, and from my recollection and speaking with Mrs. Buchanan, there is a certain amount of monies that have to be expended before the end of June in order to proceed.
And that was my next question.
And to proceed to the next phase. So we've been given a certain amount that we need to show we've expended by June 30th, and I believe the reason why she chose this one is because it was before June 30th.
Correct. And also the trainer herself, and the availability and when it's going to be, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And the content.
Yes.
Because from what I'm looking at the description, it talks about providing the training for the basics of ballet and then some more advanced stuff. Correct?
Correct. This would be able to refresh her expertise and being able to provide a course in ballet for the fall.
Okay. So
But this is a two-step workshop, because it says that, please note that 1 week participant will be missing half of the curriculum. So to send somebody over for half of the curriculum, and I know we need to spend the money, but that is what this board has said. Be creative and don't just make a purchase just like that. And we still don't even have the backup of the curriculum. And how long have we had that grant for?
I believe it was approved by December, maybe January of January, yes.
Of this year?
Yes.
So the grant was granted without the class?
Yes.
Without having backup information on that, or?
Well, what she submitted was the grant itself, which included summaries or descriptions of the plan. And so based on that grant that she wrote, a first installment, if you will, was given. And there were certain things that had to be done before June 30th so that it could be decided if we move on to the second part, which is where I understand, that the curriculum would take place. The writing of the curriculum, that is.
they give you, in other words, they give you an X amount to get to where you're going to go, and then once you've fulfilled the stipulations of that first part of the grant, then you move on to the second part.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Somebody mentioned it, but I was reading through this thing. It says the cost of the 2 week program is $1,030 and $1,030. If I'm not mistaken, by June 14, teachers they're done teaching, right? So, so even if she went to the 2-week training, she wouldn't be missing any school or anything like that. So why is it, I don't know, maybe I missed it, but why is it that she's not participating in the 2-week program?
You know what, I'd have to ask her. I honestly don't know why she's not included herself in the 2-week program.
Because it says right here, I mean, maybe they're just trying to get their money, but it says, if it's only possible for you to attend for 1 week, meaning this is a 2-week program and they would like for them to do the 2-week program, so. And if we have the money that we have to spend, that's just my point.
Okay.
Because I was concerned that, well, if she went to the 2 weeks, she will miss school, but
That may be true, what Mr. Pesqueira says as far as how much she has allocated for professional development. I will share with you that she did give up the amount of money that was going to go to her for resource. She did give that up to put it into another area so that the grant would be successful.
maybe that's why. Okay.
I'd just like to add, I mean, I think it's great that we have this opportunity for our students. I think it's great that we have staff that is out there getting trained, and I think it's going to be a great program. We do have a motion right now by Ms. Duarte to table this pending curriculum. We had a second by Ms. Aguilar that opened it up for discussion.
I withdraw my second.
And I'll withdraw my table because I know where this is going. But since the money has to be spent, I withdraw my motion.
There's a withdrawal of motion. Is there a new motion?
Motion to approve.
There's a motion to approve item number 12 by Ms. Aguilar. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
A second by Mr. Calderon. If no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Those voting in favor are Trustee Ortega, Trustee Aguilar, Trustee Duarte, Trustee Calderon, and myself. Item number 14, professional development. Thank you, Ms. Montaño, Mr. Visquero. Professional development, expository reading and writing course certification for middle schools. I don't know who pulled it. You know what, I do know. I have it clustered under Ms. Duarte, item number 14.
Which one is that?
Item number 14.
Oh, I was looking at 13, I'm sorry. No, I don't know. Hold
Mr.
on.
Gonzalez, just kidding. No.
I think I made a mistake by pulling it out. Oh, I was okay with that.
Do you have a motion on this item then, Ms. Duarte?
Yeah, I'll make a motion for approval.
I will second it.
It's a motion by Ms. Duarte to approve. Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. A second by Mr. Calderon. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries
Aye.
unanimously. Those voting in favor are Trustee Ortega, Trustee Aguilar, Trustee Duarte, Trustee Calderon, and myself. Item number 16, pulled by Ms. Aguilar.
That was me. Hold on. I clicked myself out of the agenda. One simple question. Will we have iPads available for the participants in the training?
Is that for Mr. Padilla?
Correct.
Good evening.
I didn't catch the question. What was the question again?
Will our participants, these are teachers, correct? Right?
No, it's
It's just you?
Yes.
Oh, I thought you, oh, never mind. I thought there was more people. Last year, we had a situation, remember, if you recall, that where we sent people to trainings and they loved the training, but the issue was that they didn't have the technology with which to be able to appreciate the impact of the, so I'm sorry, I misread it.
No problem.
And,
And the quantity of iPads wouldn't have been
Yeah.
a problem anyways.
yeah, okay. A motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Padilla. There's a motion by Ms. Aguilar to approve item number 16 under consent agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
A second by Ms. Duarte. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Those voting in favor are Trustee Ortega, Trustee Aguilar, Trustee Duarte, Trustee Calderon, and myself. Item number 9, Professional Development, Professional Learning Communities at Work Institute in Seattle, Washington, July 9th through 11th. Ms. Duarte?
Yes, I had a question. I know we've sent many teachers to San Diego and many teachers to Phoenix. Why didn't Aurora go participate with them? And now we have this before us.
Isaac Estrada, Director of Academic Services. That is correct. Actually, Aurora had 3 staff members, if I remember correctly, participate in the Phoenix PLC. However, this time around, the PLC is still needed for the staff to move forward with the changes they want to do at their site. So some of the staff members are going to the PLC in Seattle, Washington, and that's going to help them implement the changes or bring back the strategies to their site. So yes, they have gone before, and they need that support as well to continue their professional development.
And actually, if I'm not mistaken, and I could be wrong, for I believe in February when Aurora's teachers were slated to go, of the 3 teachers that did sign up, I think only 1 was able to go or 2 didn't go, I believe, I'm not sure. So the school does still need to go in that direction. It's something that was highly touted in their WASC, as a matter of fact, and they're really gung-ho about going, and they'd like to implement as much of the PLC concept when they return in the fall. You know, and that's why they'd like to take this trip prior to August, if I'm not mistaken.
So, oh, you're taking it? Okay. So with that said, and I know that my fellow board members have all attended a PLC meeting except for me, so I would like to make a motion to add a board member to go to this and to be me and nominate myself. So my motion is to approve with adding me as a board member since I've been the only one that has not attended.
Okay, Madam President, had to leave the room for a minute, so there's a motion on the floor by Ms. Duarte, stating that to approve as it is with the amendment of adding 1 board member, and she is recommending that she be the board member to go on this PLC.
I second it.
Okay, there's a second by Mr. Ortega. Any comments? Okay, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes 4-0. Voting members, members voting yes are Trustee Ortega, Aguilar, Duarte, and myself. Oh, and Ms. Suno did not vote. She stepped out for a minute. Going down to item 20, approval of school site safety plans.
Mr. Calderon, if you don't mind me interrupting you for a couple of minutes, I
ahead.
just wanted you to know that we are 10 minutes away from 10 o'clock.
We need a motion to extend the meeting.
By how much?
20 was not pulled.
It says 20 here.
I'm not staying till midnight.
Make a motion till up to 2 hours. We got closed session, guys. We got important items.
I second it.
Okay, there's a motion by Ms. Duarte to extend the meeting up to 2 hours, and there's a second by Mr. Ortega. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 No.
Aye. Okay, motion passes 3-1 with Ms. Suno Vizcarra not voting. Members, vote yea on the item, where Trustee Ortega, Trustee Duarte, and myself. Voting no is Ms. Aguilar. Duarte and Ortega seconded. Okay. Item 20? No? Okay, for some reason the president had here item 20, but no, so it's not.
May I have a word with you?
Sure. Okay, so we're gonna go with item 20, approval of school safety plans. Is there any discussion on item 20? Okay, yes, and, but Ms. Vizcarra is not here, so,
Can we just table it till she's here? Because she obviously wrote it down for a reason. She had some input on it.
do you want,
I would say
hold on,
to table it until after closed session.
okay, is that a motion? Ms. Aguilar?
Motion to table the action item to after closed session.
Is there a
I'll
second?
second that.
There's a motion to table item 20 to after closed session, and there's a Ms. Aguilar motion, and there's a second by Ms. Duarte. Any comments? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
If I may interrupt, Mr. Vice President, according to my records, that item has been approved along with your consent agenda. So I don't know, Mr. Weiler, do I just note another motion?
And that should be voted on again.
So there's a motion on the floor to table this item after closed session, and by Ms. Aguilar, Ms. Aguilar, and second by Ms. Duarte.
No, but the clarification by Janet is that it was already voted on.
Yes, but
So I'll withdraw my motion.
hold on, Mr. Weiler.
That works.
There was a technicality. There was public comment desired before
Yes.
the vote on the consent agenda, and the public comment was inadvertently omitted. Then there was public comment pursuant to the request, and the speaker of that public comment had the right to speak on it before the final vote. So 20 should be voted on again.
Okay. So there's a motion on the floor by Ms. Aguilar, seconded by Ms. Duarte to table this action after
And-
closed meeting.
That's correct.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes 4-0 with Ms. Zuna Vizcarra not voting, members voting yes, Ortega, Trustee Aguilar, Trustee Duarte, and myself. And I relinquish to the president.
Thank you, Mr. Calderon. Informational only board, we have item number 1, the accounts payable pre-list. You do have a hard copy in front of you. Is there any discussion on that? Any questions?
I have a question, Madam President. Page 3 of 11 on the first week. The CASBO, there's an expense for $949. And it says registration and cancellation fees for Public Works bids, workshop for Business Services Department. What kind of a workshop was that?
This was the Public Works, again, it was public contract training, and it talked about the new legislation for preliminary contractor filtering. As the new legislation, they say that we need to screen contractors that we're going to hire for the next year or who are interested in bidding. We are in the process of completing that packet. So when the new school year comes around, we were going to issue that to our current vendors and contractors.
So that is to make sure that these contractors are state approved.
That they're licensed, that they are bonded, that they have all the legal requirements, that have workers' comp, all of that. And the cancellation fee was for 2 of the participants who were not to go.
Okay. And with that said, do we have somebody that checks to make sure that we're in compliance, or is it just somebody from the district that makes sure that everything is squared with their certifications and work comp insurance and all that?
Whenever we go out to bid, that's part of the process. Whenever the submittal of these bids gets to us, that's when we check that everything's in place.
And then there was one contract paper group, page 4 out of 11, first week. One case of white paper and one case of colored paper for ACES program at Kennedy Gardens. This might be a Dr. Estrada question, I think. But we don't buy in bulk for ACES for all the schools?
If you notice at the coding, it says 9509, and what that is a liability. And so what must have happened, that there's a difference from what we put on our books as owing, and this is just the difference, but we still need to issue a check.
Oh, okay, okay. But the paper, it does get
The original order was for a lot more.
Oh, okay. I was thinking we were just buying one box of school or something. And page 7 out of 11, the Imperial Irrigation. The amount for $7,261.66. It says electricity services at Calexico High School parking lot and CC, which Kiki Camarena. Now, I know that, Cesar Chavez. I know that Cesar Chavez lights in the parking lot do not work. And Calexico High School parking lot are very dim, but $7,200 for the parking lot lights? Or is that our electrical bill?
Let me check, but I think this is an inspection charge. I'm looking at the coding. If you don't mind, I'm going to go get my chart of accounts just to make sure.
Okay, thank you.
No, this is a bill. This is a meter bill. It is for $7,200.
Okay, so can we have our Cesar Chavez meter read or inspected? Because if we don't have lights, it's not consuming any electricity. And I don't know how it would drain that much electricity if they're not working, or unless the breaker's going and somebody's stealing our light. The neighborhood, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know who's tapping into it, but I
Okay,
know that the
I'll
school
check
is
it.
dark and it's not. So if we can check that bill, please, and check the meter reading, because I know that the IID now just goes to the house and with a swab, they just get the the number and stuff, because I've seen them do it to my house, and I'm like, no, you write down the number, because I've had wrong electrical bills. And the number was wrong. So, yeah, let's check that. And on Land's End, I know that the board got an email if we wanted shirts, but I assume that we paid for them, because I know I've paid for my district shirts
Yes.
in the past, and there's a
Yes.
bill here for $188, and I don't know what that bill is for, because it's for school board members.
Yes, what happens is we pay for it up front, and then we abate the amount once the amount is paid to us.
And one more. On the fuel for Sokol Group, I had run out of time by the time I wanted to check that. But can we have an itemized bill on all diesel and gas that we spent for the whole entire year, and see where in the budget does it come out from? Because when I check the budget report and I see the expenses of diesel, I can't find it. And I don't know what coding it's under, but I don't know which ones, because it says fuel for all CUSD transportation vehicles and fuel for all CUSD vehicles. So I don't know what the difference is, but $5,500 for 1 month seems, or $5,600 for 1 month seems a little bit. If that doesn't include the diesel of the buses, then it may be right. But if it's including the diesel, I'd like to know what is the price of the diesel per gallon. Because the reason why I bring that up is because when we charge the schools for diesel at $2.50, I know it's highway robbery. Because the gallon is probably $4 for our buses. So we're not even getting half of what we're paying out. And I can't find an object code for the diesel itself.
No, it's all
It's all general fund.
included in 4361. But I'll send the itemized bill tomorrow.
Yeah, and if we can have, if we can look at the gas bill, maybe year end 13, 14, go by school year versus calendar year. That way we can see how much we're expending in diesel, and also how much it's costing us per gallon on regular gas and the diesel. I think I thought about it last night when we had the joint council, the joint meeting for the pool, and I went out and said that it's our responsibility to make sure that we make good management of our budget. And I think that is one area that we have to explore, because if I can't find it in the budget as a code by itself, I can't see how much we're spending in diesel. And I can't confirm, because I've always asked and I haven't gotten an answer, if the school sites pay back transportation for the diesel, for the overtime of the bus drivers, and I still haven't gotten a response. But I know that we do spend a lot of money that is not budgeted, and it's just going out. And that is one of the ways that we can save to make that $5,000 payment for the pool. And but we have to be cognizant of these little issues, because we know what we have to buy, that we have to buy books, and we have to buy, iPads for the students, for the Common Core, and all this and that. But we're not looking at what we're really spending money on. And if we can make cuts on those, then we can more or less catch the money where it's going in the back door that nobody's watching. So I'd like a report on that. And I think that's all I had highlighted. Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez.
I have some questions as well. In in various pages in the first, in the several weeks, there's listed payments to Scholastic Inc. Just want to confirm that of renewal of licenses, all of these programs are being implemented at all school sites? Because I remember at one point there was some discussion that, some school sites are using them and some of them are not. So just want to confirm that we have verification that they are being implemented.
As far as the accounting piece of it, I do foresee that they are. I don't know, this would be something that Mrs. Ambrose could expand on.
Mrs. Ambrose?
As regards to the Read 180 and System 44 programs. Just to find out if they're using the licenses.
I know that the use of the licenses is monitored by Mrs. Armendariz and Ms. Yanez, and they, at the beginning of the year, they actually sent the principals at the elementary schools that were using it, and I guess at the secondary schools as well, an email saying, okay, these are the amount of licenses that you have, these are amount of licenses that are being used. Make sure that you are maximizing on your licenses, and I believe that they do a periodic check of the license usage as well.
Okay, thank you. Another question was in terms of Hollandia. It's 20,000 for the month of January to February, and that's about, I want to say 3 weeks, 3 weeks or so. And maybe and I didn't call you to ask you in advance, so I'm not springing this on you, but if you could send me some type of if we have progressively gone up, and if so, why? In terms of the expenses.
Yeah, I'll have a report for you.
Yeah. That's it. Thank you. I did also, I've monitored some of the food expenditures, and then there's one for 50,000, I think in the second week. I lost my place, but it just seemed a little bit.
For Desert Valley produce?
I think so, perhaps. I lost my place, but I know I saw it. It's for 50,000.
I know that there were some, what happens is that the produce is delivered every other week, and I know that they had some past invoices that
were outstanding.
They were busy with the administrative review, and it just got processed until now.
All right. Also, want to put it out there that I did share some of the information. No, I didn't share it. I'll hold off till my board comments. Never mind. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else on the pre-list? Nope. Okay, item number 2, field trip, educational talent search field trip to Cal State San Marcos, May 2nd.
Yes, for items number 2, it's a field trip that's paid for by the Talent Search program. It's taking a group of kids to San Marcos, and it's pretty much the same concept for the April 10th trip that is tomorrow, obviously. Okay, today, sorry. And so, but these 2 trips are paid for by Educational Talent Search for the kids who participate in the program. And just that is the information for that.
Thank you. Number 3 is the same thing as number 2. Item P, superintendent recommends approval of the following items. Number 1, declaration of need for fully qualified educators for the 2014-15 school year.
And this is a document that is prepared every single year that states what type of need we will have for the following school year in terms of our general staffing and in terms of the qualified teaching component.
Motion to approve.
I'll second that.
There's a motion by Ms. Aguilar to approve the superintendent's recommendation, item number 1, declaration of need for fully qualified educators for the 2014-15 school year. Is there a second? There's a motion by Ms. Aguilar, a second by Mr. Calderon. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Those voting in favor are Trustee Ortega, Trustee Aguilar, Trustee Duarte, and Trustee Calderon, and myself. Item number 2, resolution proclaiming May 19th through 23rd, 2014 as classified week.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Ms. Aguilar to approve. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Duarte. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries unanimously. The voting in favor are Trustee Ortega, Aguilar, Duarte, Calderon, and myself. Item number 3, resolution proclaiming May 14th, 2014 as Day of the Teacher. Is there a motion?
I've got a question, Madam
There's a
President.
question. Yes,
You don't
ma'am.
have to read the resolution?
Do you want me to read it?
It'd be nice.
Okay. Do we have it in hard? It's so hard for me to see. I'll read it. There's no resolution number. Okay. Okay, so resolution number, the number is pending proclaiming May 19th through 23rd, 2014 as Classified Employees Week. Whereas Calexico professionals provide valuable services to the schools and students of the Calexico Unified School District. And whereas classified professionals contribute to the establishment and promotion of a positive instructional environment. And whereas classified professionals serve a vital role in providing for the welfare and safety of Calexico Unified School District students. And whereas classified professionals employed by the Calexico Unified School District strive for excellence in all areas relative to the educational community. Therefore, be it resolved that the Calexico Unified School District Board of Education hereby recognizes and wishes to honor the contribution of the classified professionals to quality education in the state of California and in the Calexico Unified School District, and declares the week of May 19th through the 23rd, 2014 as Classified School Employee Week in the Calexico Unified School District. The Board of Education of the Calexico Unified School District. Approval by Ms. Trustee Ortega, Trustee Aguilar, Trustee Duarte, Trustee Calderon, and myself. I, Maria J. Ambris, Superintendent and Secretary to the Board of Education of Calexico Unified School District of Imperial County, California, do hereby certify that the foregoing is a full, true, and correct copy of a resolution adopted by said board at a duly scheduled meeting thereof.
Thank you.
I sure will.
Motion to approve the next recommendation for the Day of the Teacher.
So motion to approve item number 3, proclaiming May 14th, 2014 as Day of the Teacher.
I'll second that.
The second by Mr. Calderon. Sorry, the motion was made by Ms. Aguilar, the second by Mr. Calderon. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, motion carries unanimously. Those voting in favor are Trustee Ortega, Aguilar, Duarte, Calderon, and myself. And I'll read the resolution. Resolution number pending, proclaiming May 14th, 2014 as Day of the Teacher. Whereas Calexico Unified School District encourages suitable commemorative exercises directing attention to teachers and the teaching profession. Whereas the Calexico Unified School Board of Trustees has the utmost respect and admiration for the state's professional teachers who have dedicated their lives and their talents to the education of our children, who are truly California's most precious and important resource. Whereas the Board of Trustees recognizes the true vital role of teachers in realizing its vision for California public education. all California students of the 21st century will attain the highest level of academic knowledge, applied learning, and performance skills to ensure fulfilling personal lives and careers and contribute to civic and economic progress in our diverse and changing democratic society. Whereas in contemplating the California Day of the Teacher, the Calexico Unified Board of Trustees recognizes and honors the contributions of all teachers. Now therefore be it resolved on this 10th day of April 2014 that the Calexico Unified School Board of Trustees proclaims May 14th, 2014 as Day of the Teacher, extending its sincere appreciation to the many professional teachers of the Calexico Unified School District who make our public schools successful, and urges all local educational agencies to schedule appropriate activities celebrating and emphasizing the contributions of teachers who really do affect eternity. Board of Education of the Calexico Unified School District, approval by Trustee Ortega, Trustee Aguilar, Trustee Duarte, Trustee Calderon, and myself, I, Maria J. Ambriz, Superintendent and Secretary to the Board of Education of Calexico Unified School District of Imperial County, California, do hereby certify that the foregoing is a full, true, and correct copy of a resolution adopted by said board at a duly scheduled meeting thereof. Item number 4, another resolution, decreased of district revolving cash fund. Ms. Rodriguez.
I can speak to it, Madam President.
Thank you, Ms. Randall.
This item comes before the board as a result of a continuous audit finding. Our revolving cash has not been replenished from 2 years ago when there were payments made to a vendor for services rendered, as the county at that time had stay and rescind authority, and there were payments made out of revolving cash. And in order to reconcile the revolving cash and replenish the revolving cash, we need to decrease the fund so we can expend or expense those checks that were paid to that vendor and reconcile our accounting.
Thank you, Ms. Randall. Any discussion by the board?
So by reducing the revolving cash from 50,000 to 20,000, is that a one-time deal, or is that is that a
That is a
permanent?
one-time deal, and the board has the discretion at any time to increase the revolving cash to $50,000.
So we're paying back ourselves.
That is
We're
correct.
paying ourselves back.
That is correct. And it would be my recommendation, as a resolution will come back to the board in the 14, 15, probably the first meeting in July or the meeting in July, to increase our revolving cash back to $50,000.
And this inability to reconcile has been because the county has refused to authorize the expenditure?
That is correct.
Thank you.
All those services had been rendered, right?
That is correct.
Motion to approve.
So motion to approve by Ms. Aguilar. Is there a second?
I'll second it for all sakes.
There's a second by Ms. Duarte. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Those voting in favor are Trustee Ortega, Trustee Aguilar, Trustee Duarte, Trustee Calderon, and myself. Mr. Calderon will read the resolution.
Okay, I don't have my glasses, so. Resolution number pending, Calexico Unified School District Resolution of the Governing Board for the decrease of district revolving cash fund, whereas emergencies sometimes occur requiring immediate expenditure of cash for materials and services, and whereas errors are sometimes made in an employee's payroll warrant, and whereas the district previously established a revolving cash fund in conformity with Education Code Sections 42800-42805 inclusive in the amount of $50,000. Now therefore be it resolved the revolving cash fund be decreased to the amount of $20,000 for use by the Superintendent of Calexico Unified School District and the Assistant Superintendent of Business Services of the district for expenditures as outlined in Education Code Sections 42804 and 45167. Pursuant to Education Code Sections 42801 and 41021, the Superintendent and the Assistant Superintendent of Business Services shall be bonded. Pursuant to Education Code 4203, a copy of the bond shall be filed with the Office of the County Superintendent of Schools. Passed and adopted by the Governing Board of Calexico Unified School District at a meeting held on April 10, 2014 by the following vote. Voting yes, Trustee Ortega, Trustee Aguilar, Trustee Duarte, myself, and Trustee Zuno Vizcarra. Cito C. Calderon, Clerk of the Board, Calexico Unified School District.
Thank you. We're on item Q of our agenda, board members' closing comments. We'll start from my left to the right. Mr. Ortega.
I have no comments at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Ortega. Ms. Aguilar.
Yes, I do have some comments. One of the things that I was going to address is the fact I've been continuing ongoing research in terms of food services and the different ways to provide, I guess, good, tasty and fun and healthy meals to our students. Along the way, I did come across a website of that I would like to share with whoever we place in food services. In doing the research, I also came across a grant that is specific, that ties in specifically to the percentage of free lunches. And so that would, it's a matter of doing the paperwork, and and that in turn would entitle that school district to free vegetables, fruits and vegetables. And it's based on the percentage. The higher the percentage, the higher the amount of the funding. So. I would like to also remind that I have brought it up before in terms of incorporating student participation, parent participation, and board participation in giving some recommendations of some of the things that we want to see. We don't want to continue seeing, heat and serve options only on menus. And I want to see fresh foods. So. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Aguilar. Ms. Duarte.
Yes, there was several events that took place this week in regards to some directives of the board and stuff, but as tonight we encountered again with the field trips and stuff, and I know that maybe we should use one of the mariachis violins or something, but we keep singing the same tune. Please bring us the backup before we make the motions, especially when it comes to field trips such as these. I don't like to be the bad person to bring up those issues, but we ask for them for a reason. People at the podium say that we have to be responsible, that it's on us and everything. But if we don't make people accountable, then, how can we count ourselves as accountable? So I think that this district needs to really take a look and see that we are all stakeholders and everything. And when we need to make these decisions, we need to have the documentation in front of us. It's not because we're being mean. It's just that we need to take care of the budget. And I've always been the budget person, the one that talks about, do we have money for this? Do we have money for that? And yes, we can spend on this and stuff, but it's very important, because without the money, the school district doesn't function. And the other thing was Mr. Raul Ureña brought something up that I also agree with him, is the zero tolerance. And as a school board, a lot of the policies that we currently have right now, some of them are outdated, some of them don't work. And I agree with him that in order to learn, you must make mistakes. And one of the things that in my own personal career, if I don't take that leap, I'm never going to learn, and I'm not going to be efficient. And by us disciplining our kids, our students, for something that they have to learn, and the only way they're going to learn is by doing this. And with the zero tolerance, I think sometimes it bites us because we don't allow them to do anything. And we've talked about it in the expulsions and suspensions and stuff. So I know for a fact that this board has not have one discipline policy come forward. I don't think we have made one policy in the discipline. And it was funny that he mentioned that tonight, because I downloaded the discipline policy of the district today, and I thought I had it within my paper, so I was like, wow, we were thinking about the same thing today. And it's bothersome that when I was reading those policies, I was like, really? I guess it depends who it is, because we see a lot of those don't do policies on a daily basis, or we hear about it. But anyways, I would like to see more of that. We had also said about our agenda to be focused to the vision and mission, and I think we've changed it so many times. I don't think we have a vision anymore. But those are things that we need to sit down and rethink, and hopefully this summer we can have a retreat where we come back together on those items. And that's it.
Okay, this last week we had WASC accreditation for Aurora High School. I attended the 2 meetings that they asked us to attend. Actually, the 3 meetings, and I have to accept, it was an eye opener for me in a good way. I liked it. I liked what I saw. I liked the recommendations that the committee made. So I'm very glad that I was able to be part of that of those meetings. I liked what the counselors from the high school, or the counselor from the high school, presented today about the Latin grade point system or graduation status. What to change, instead of having a valedictorian and salutatorian, to change it to the Latin way. So I think it would be a good idea to look into that. And last but not least, I attended the meeting last night for the pool. It was a very necessary meeting, and I'm gonna have to agree with the ACT Union president that we need to have these meetings more transparent. We need to be able to post them. We need to inform the public. I know we have done it in the past, but let's start being a little bit more proactive about these meetings and make sure that nothing is questionable anymore. The pool is a necessity, and I'm gonna say it. I am in full favor of the pool. I was a little hesitant when they said that the funding was going to come from the general fund. Nobody likes to hear that, but we need a pool. We are the only high school, or the only big comprehensive high school in the county that doesn't have a pool, other than Southwest. But once again, Southwest is part of a Central Union High School District, and Central has a pool. So we need a pool, not only for our students, but also for this community. There will be some resistance maybe for special interest groups and from outsiders, people that don't live in Calexico, about constructing this pool. However, we need it. I came to Calexico about 20 years ago, 25 years ago. I use the pool every single summer. My daughter will be using that pool when she grows up. Okay, people that don't live here in Calexico, maybe they don't care that we don't have a pool. However, I live in Calexico. I don't plan to moving anywhere else, so I will be in full support of that pool, assuming that the finances are good and that the loans or the structure of the loans are favorable to Calexico Unified. So I hope that the pool project goes as planned, and I hope that we can make this happen. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to start off by asking this board to consider tonight's presentation on the graduation academic ranking, and that we look to adopting the Latin model starting next school year. I really do believe that if we have the opportunity to be able to honor more than 100 students at commencement ceremony instead of just 2, I think that'd be really great. To have a large group like this be recognized for their great academic, social, and civic success would be really fantastic. I'd like to congratulate Aurora High School for being a model school and for getting through their WASC accreditation process. It was interesting to see that process roll out. I'd really like to, and here's really by the core of my comments tonight for you as a board. I'd like to add my support for a comprehensive sexual education curriculum. We've had a couple of students come up to the podium this last year in particular and really bring up issues that they go through. I think the fact that we only have 1 or 2 students that are willing to come forward is a big deal, especially in our community. We have a lot of students that will self-identify as LGBT. We also have a really high rate of teen pregnancy. We have the highest unemployment rate, I think, in any county in California. And I think we also pretty much win the highest rate of poverty levels in the state of California currently. And so our students really we have pretty grim statistics for them. I think if we can support them by offering education on sexual education, awareness on LGBT issues, allow the students that would self-identify as that to know that we support them, and for the students that don't, to support their peers, to support their fellow students in that sense. So I'd like to propose that we actually take action on it, that we form a committee, that we talk to the students that have come forward here to us. I think we owe it not just to those 2 students, but you have to, I think, know that they represent a pretty big section of our student population. I have kids that I have a daughter that graduated, and so my experience was with a lot of her friends that would identify as LGBT, and as a parent, what it was like for me to talk to her about those issues and talk to her about acceptance, and to see those relationships flourish, and they have great relationships now. But I have 2 younger children who, at their age, in particular the younger one who's in 7th grade, will tell me that her friends identify under some sort of LGBT. So it's happening, it's out there, and I think we should address it. I think it's also a safety concern for our students and for our community, that we have to provide a level of awareness and acceptance for our kids so that we can also start changing our statistics. I really do have more ongoing concern over our teen pregnancy rates. And I'm gonna segue also then that I'd like to see us do something to improve the security, I think the safety at the high school. And by that I mean that we look at having a closed campus. I had the opportunity at some point last year to talk to our SRO, who really concurred with me. It was actually at a time when I went with Dr. Asiad. He took me on a tour to see the high school during lunchtime. Now, he told me we'd see a lot of drug use. We didn't see it, but which was good, maybe because they saw us coming. We didn't see any of that. But we also, at that time, we got to talk to the SRO, who really also concurred that it really was impossible for them to monitor what our students were doing. But he said, look, what does happen is there's a high drug use that happens when you allow the students to leave. There's also an increase in sexual activity that occurs when you allow the students to leave for lunchtime. And it also adds to absenteeism, and kids don't come back when they're allowed to leave for lunch. And we struggle then with our attendance for the students, and not just with attendance, because then what happens is they're losing out on their education because they don't come back, and then they have all those truancy issues, and it becomes more difficult to get them back on track. So I'd like us also to consider having a closed campus. I think that conversation then also leads back to our cafeteria, to food services. What are we offering? We do have, in my opinion, we give a horrible message when we close off streets and allow all these vans of vendors to horribly provide food that I don't think is nutritionally valuable for students. We also live in an economically impacted community, yet somehow these parents make it work for the students to give them money every single day so that they can go out there and purchase food, whereas we provide it for free as a district. So there's some disconnect there where parents are having to somehow fork over money every single day so these kids can go eat outside, and these vendors are really capitalizing on our communities that I don't think all can afford it, but somehow make it work because they have to make sure that their kids eat something. We're not providing it in the school, so they're getting it out there. I think really the message that we send, because we're willing to close off city streets to allow for that, the traffic of the vendors to go through there. I've never seen it in other districts, and I think it's really disappointing that we have that here. It's a very sad sight for me, and I dread my son going to high school because that'll be the environment he's in, and not just for him, but the rest of the students that go through there. That's the environment that they live in. And so I'd like to see us talk about closing that campus. Lastly, I want to talk about the LCAP and what I expect to see in the plan that comes before us when it's ready. Recently, the San Jose School District approved in part of their LCAP to hire social workers. They did an assessment, and they decided, after looking at their statistics, that they had high dropout rates, that they had students whose social needs and family needs weren't being met. And they thought, well, let's use this money to hire social workers. And they brought them on board, and they're going to work for the San Jose School District. And I would imagine that what's going to happen is they're going to decrease their absenteeism records, rates. They're going to be able to really catch those kids so that they don't come before a board for expulsion, or that they catch them before, or maybe in the course of some drug use or some sexual activity, that they'll be caught, they'll be saved, so to speak. Exactly. There are other school districts that have done assessments that are really interesting. What I expect to see when we get this LCAP is, in earnest, an assessment that was done of what this community needs. I have asked for that. I haven't received it. It hasn't come through us that at any point that we were really looking at what the issues we have in our community and what we could do with that one-time fund. I've asked plenty of times what those assessments look like for those three areas, and I've not received a clear answer, or an answer that I can accept and that I would feel comfortable in accepting and approving, saying we certainly moved in the right direction this last year in making sure that the issues that we see on the board, when we struggle with those expulsions, when we struggle with listening to parents come up here and plead that we pay attention to their kids' drug use. Some of us have kids in the school district. I know that I have a son who recently told me that there's a lot of drug dealing going on in his school, right there in front of them. So I have those fears as a parent. I have those fears as a school board member for all 9,000 something students that we have here, that we're going to have received this money for one time, and that we didn't really conduct an assessment, that we as a board really feel comfortable in saying this district did a bang up job in really finding out what our students' needs are and applying that money to that. I really, there's no way I could be a part of that. What I've received so far as notice is that this money is going to be at the discretion of each grade level. And I really don't see, what I predict will happen is this money will be spent and we're not going to see a lasting effect on it. That's my unfortunate prediction. I hope that that's not what happens. But I've really been asking for this for a very, very long time, for a year. I've sent requests via email. I've spoken about it here, and I don't receive it. I've received 2 different, very, very different packets of information that seems like it's called the Common Core Plan or the LCAP. Doesn't make sense to me, and I know you all haven't received it, but it's disappointing to me that I haven't seen really community involvement. I haven't seen where we've reached out to parents. I mean, I'm a parent as well. No one has really reached out to me and invited me to a forum where I can say, here's what I think my kids need. That hasn't happened, and I'm really, really disappointed. I see other districts moving forward in really wonderful ways. I share that sometimes with you when I find how a district has chosen to spend their money. I just want you to see what's going on in other districts. We're always talking about, well, what are other districts doing that would make them successful? And that's what I expect to see in the LCAP when it comes before us. Thank you, that's all. Big picture of us smiling. We're on item R of our agenda. We're going to reconvene to our earlier closed session. It is 10:42, and I think the meeting was extended to midnight. It's 10:43 right now. I wasn't here for that extension. It was extended to, at 10, it was extended for 2 hours. Is that correct? Okay. And Norma voted no.